It doesn't have to fall into narcissism, but narcissism can lead it. In 1972, Carly Simon recorded a song that would echo through Hollywood for half a century. You're So Vain climbed to #1 and triggered one of the greatest guessing games in music history. Famous men even volunteered themselves as the inspiration. But Carly knew something no one else did. The song wasn't about a single man. It was built from 3 different relationships, 3 betrayals woven into one unforgettable hook. After decades of silence, she finally revealed the truth. And the story behind it was far more complicated than the world expected. Carly Simon was born June 25, 1943, in Manhattan during World War II. Her family lived in the Riverdale section of the Bronx, surrounded by privilege and high expectations. Her father, Richard L. Simon, co-founded Simon & Schuster, one of the largest publishing houses in the world. Books filled the house, a grand piano anchored the living room, and silence sat under everything. Summers were spent on Martha's Vineyard, where the air felt looser, but New York was a place of polished image and tension. She went to Riverdale Country School, then Sarah Lawrence College, surrounded by creativity and pressure. Underneath the privilege was a private ache that shaped her entire life. Her mother, Andrea, began an affair with a younger man hired as a tutor for Carly's brother Peter. The man eventually lived in the home like a second husband while her father said nothing. Carly called him lover and destroyer. The silence inside the house deepened. The children felt it more than anyone. That wound never fully closed. Then, when Carly was just 7, a 16-year-old family guest assaulted her after an afternoon of skinny dipping. It continued over several summers. When she told her sisters, they didn't believe her. When her mother found out, the boy was sent away only briefly. No one spoke of it again. Carly was left with a stutter, shame, and a wound that later bled into her music. At 10, she found her escape in songwriting. Her father filled the house with classical music, and her uncle handed her a ukulele. Words that failed her in conversation flowed easily in lyrics. Writing became a refuge. Her dyslexia pushed her toward rhythm and melody. Music became the one place she didn't stutter, the one place she could breathe. Identity was always complicated. Her father was a German Jew. Her mother Catholic with Cuban heritage who believed the family had Spanish and Moorish roots. In 2017, a DNA test revealed her maternal grandmother was heavily African-Cuban, making Carly part African and part Native American. It shook her sense of self and later seeped quietly into her songwriting. 2 years after her mother's affair began tearing the household apart, her father died suddenly of a heart attack. Carly was 16. The loss was heavy not just because he was gone, but because of everything that had never been said between them. His absence haunted her for life and again found its way into the music she wrote. In 1963, Carly and her sister Lucy formed the Simon Sisters and signed with Cap Records. Their voices blended beautifully and their debut album featured Winkin, Blinkin' and Nod, which reached number 73 on the charts. 3 albums later, Lucy left to marry, leaving Carly alone with her music. Her stage fright was crippling. She once collapsed backstage and sometimes needed tranquilizers just to perform. Still, she pushed forward. A solo attempt in 1966 failed when a producer made advances she refused. The work was shelved, but she walked away with a fierce sense of self-worth. Then Jacob Brackman heard her songs and believed in her. Together they wrote That's the Way I've Always Heard It Should Be, a haunting critique of marriage that climbed to number 10 in 1971 and earned her a Grammy nomination. It was bold, unsettling, and the world listened. Her debut album followed that year, recorded in 4 days with raw emotional honesty that resonated, especially with women. It sold over 500,000 copies. In 1972, she won the Grammy for Best New Artist. Yet backstage she could barely breathe from panic. Fame magnified her anxiety instead of calming it. A near-fatal Quaalude overdose after heartbreak marked her lowest point, but she survived it and turned pain into purpose. Everything changed with No Secrets in 1972. The album shot to number 1 and stayed there for 5 weeks. Anticipation, The Right Thing to Do, and You're So Vain defined her. People obsessed over who the mysterious Vain man was. In 2015 she confirmed the third verse referred to Warren Beatty, though other verses belonged to different men. The guessing kept the song alive for decades. By then she had married James Taylor in Paul Simon's apartment, and within a year their daughter Sarah was born. But behind the golden image was turmoil. Taylor struggled with heroin addiction and repeated infidelity. Carly loved him fiercely, but the roller coaster of addiction took a toll. She confronted one of his lovers who cruelly mocked her. Carly retaliated with her own affair, but nothing healed the marriage. Hotcakes in 1974 soared while she was pregnant, with Mockingbird and Haven't Got Time for the Pain becoming hits. Yet the relationship with Taylor deteriorated. There were fights, relapses, therapy, secrets. During one explosive argument, she swung a guitar at him and missed. Music and pain walk side by side. In 1977, Nobody Does It Better, the theme from The Spy Who Loved Me, became an international sensation. Yet behind every success was another bruise. Fame glittered, but her private world shook. After divorcing Taylor in 1983, she fought for custody of their children and won, but felt hollow afterward. Jessie from Come Upstairs had already captured Lonely Yearning in 1980. In 1987 she married poet James Hart, hoping for grounding, and for years she seemed to find it. But in 2007, when Hart revealed he was bisexual, the past opened again. It echoed her parents' broken marriage, and she felt shaken to the core. Health problems and depression followed, yet she kept writing. In 1988 she wrote Let the River Run for Working Girl, becoming the first artist to win an Oscar, Grammy, and Golden Globe for a single song. It resurrected her career and became an anthem of endurance. But her voice was threatened earlier in the 80s by vocal nodules, and she underwent risky surgery. She adapted, recorded jazz-driven albums, and reinvented herself. Coming Around Again in 1986 reflected heartbreak and forgiveness, inspired partly by Taylor's near-fatal overdose. She leaned into honesty rather than perfection. The 90s brought more reinvention. My Romance and Have You Seen Me Lately? Explored introspection, aging, and betrayal. Depression led her to electroconvulsive therapy. Then in 1997 came breast cancer. She chose a double mastectomy and spoke publicly about it, inspiring countless others. Music sustained her through chemo. She recorded the bedroom tapes with her daughter Sally, raw and intimate like pages torn from a journal. In 2004 her greatest hits album Reflections went gold, and she donated profits to literacy in honor of her father. She performed at the Athens Olympics and later returned to jazz with Moonlight Serenade, earning another Grammy nomination. When her second marriage collapsed, she retreated to Martha's Vineyard, writing children's books and reconnecting with herself.